I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Lincoln County Commission on the first day of July as we prepare to celebrate our fourth. Is it our, what is this, our 250th celebration, or isn't it? Or 249? And then next year is the 250. So great. So I hope we'll talk later about that. We need to approve the agenda, but we have a couple of changes that we need to make here. Under the consent agenda, item number 4, Christine should be changed to, if I spell this right, Sherry, Grainger. Ginger? We had the wrong first name, so make that change.
No, the wrong name, period. It's Grainger Company.
Grainger Company, excuse me. Instead of Christine, we're going to get Grainger Company. Okay. And item number 1 under regular business, since our regular chair is not here, we're going to take that off the agenda and put that on for next week. So with those two changes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Do you want any public?
Oh, wait, public comment. Yeah, excuse me, we got to have public comment on. Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Approved, Otten.
Do we have a second?
I'll second Putnam.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes. We move to the consent agenda. Is there any additions, corrections from the commission? If not, is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Hearing none, entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Otten.
Have a
Approved.
motion by Commissioner Otten. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Aaron's. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes. Which takes us to item number 2 on our regular business. We have a consider a motion to approve the chair to execute the letting authorization for the South Dakota Department of Transportation for PCN 09MH Structure 42-120-158 Bridge Replacement located on CR 125. Mr. Fluitt.
Morning, Commission. Terry Floyd, Highway Department. First item here, again, just to refresh your memory, and I think I put some data into in the agreement. I put on the agreement is in this as well, attached to this agenda item. This is a grant that we were awarded back in 2023, I think it was, out of the some federal bridge program grant through the state. Again, this is, we're getting ready, or the state is getting ready to let this project, maybe later this year, so for construction next year, and this is at 100% replacement cost, so. You just need to have the chair sign off on the letting of authorization for the South Dakota Department of Transportation, so.
Just for the record, Terry, where's this located?
This is County Road 125. It is about 2.5 miles south of Highway 18.
Oh, okay.
So 5 Mile Road, 5 Mile Oil, south.
Are there any questions that you need from our highway superintendent? Okay, Terry. Do we have any public comment on this thing? None. No more questions for Terry? You did a good job. Do we have a motion to approve?
Approve, Otten.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Otten and a second by Commissioner Aaron's to approve. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. Next, Terry, number 3.
Next item I have is board action to approve a change order in the amount of $10,868 for project PCN 09M0. This is for structure 42-020-201. This structure is part of the 3 structures that we are getting preservation work done on. Again, this is through a bridge improvement grant through the state of South Dakota. This bridge is located on Old Highway 17. It's just over 3 miles south of Highway 18. You end up having some, they're supposed to be doing some abutment work on it, and we ended up coming and we got some problems out there. See this crack right here? These abutments these girder ends they're gonna get all encased in concrete, but this crack here on this girder is too close to the end of the concrete, so we gotta add some stiffeners into that, before we pour this into the new abutment wall, so. That's what this change order is for. It's for some stiffening stuff, stiffeners to be added to this. Just some extra work that the contractor will have to do, so.
Okay. Further questions of Terry on the need for additional funds for,
What's the cost on that? Did they estimate anything?
It's $10,868.
$68.
Okay, yeah, too bad. That's a good chunk of change for a crack.
Probably cheap in case you,
Is it, like, are there more than just one?
No, I believe it's just this one girder.
Really?
Yep.
further questions for Terry? Any public comment? Hearing none.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Aaron's to approve. Do we have a second?
Second, Otten.
Second by Commissioner Otten. Further questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Putnam,
Oh, I guess yes.
Schmidt.
Yes. Terry, number 4?
All right, so I'm gonna do, this is highway and weed control budget presentation. I'm gonna do the weeds first because this is probably a little easier to deal with maybe. It's gonna be shorter for you. Okay, all this information you should have in your folder. Again, the big change really in the weed budget is we're gonna be, we're looking to get a trailer next year. It's an 82 by 18 foot. It's a 2-axle, 14,000 pound trailer, so, otherwise, we did increase costs on chemicals a little bit. A few more repairs, but, other than that, this budget is, pretty much the same as it was, well, for this year, so. One thing we are doing different, is normally what we have done in the past is I have, weed lead, I guess he's a weed lead now. We had half of his salary on the weed department and half of it in highway because when they're done with weeds, then he comes over and helps highway. And then I would also have one other highway guy that half of his salary would come out of the weed budget. And then half of his would come out of highway. Well, with the guy that we have coming over from highway to help, the amount of time we're bringing him over is really minimal. I mean, we're talking, we're having 6 months of his salary come out of weeds, but he might only be over there for 4 weeks, so we're gonna cut this back. And we're just gonna take the weed lead, his full salary is gonna come out of the weed department. And then the other guy, he's gonna stay over on highway, but if it does get to nice enough conditions like today, I know today is the first time this year that we're bringing that guy over there. Probably work for the day with Russ, doing spraying weeds and such, but, other than that, yeah, so, that's the only really change is getting the trailer. that we were, for hauling around the Rangers.
Terry, probably goes without saying, but there's probably not a lot of weed spraying during the winter, is there?
No,
So couldn't we just, do some very easy math and say the weed guy only works on weeds X number of months during the year and then put that in the weed budget and then the rest, when he goes back to working for your department, goes to your department or not?
so typically, he'll start doing weeds, inspections, probably, late March, April, probably early April, probably get out there, starting to look at some of these sites, going through paperwork. Again, every year on a yearly basis, if we have complaints, if we have chronic complaints from certain individuals or property owners, he's going through all of them, we're getting letters out, we're making contact, hey, you need to make sure you take care of the weeds before we get to the problem before you get a letter sent out to you type thing. And then normally he'll do that until probably mid to late November. Again, typically, normally he'll do fall sprays, for the townships. He tries to move them to the fall. And then he has a weed meeting out, wherever his weed meeting is that they gotta go to. Typically, that's in the, early to mid-November. And then normally after that, he's over there going through spray equipment, making repairs, doing updates on things. And then once you get to, of course, late November, we could probably have snow, and then by then, he's coming over to help us.
Yeah,
So,
he's pushing snow, isn't he?
yes, he is.
So he's probably about a 9 and a 3, isn't he? 9 months weeds.
Yeah,
3
probably
months-
something like that,
Yeah.
so.
All right. Appreciate it.
Any other questions on the weed budget?
Any other questions? Any public input? Anyway, Terry,
All right. Next one.
thank you. Next, we have, you got one more?
Oh, yeah. This was the fun one. All right. Again, this here is attached to the agenda. Basically, I have up here the comparison request, or comparison from 2025 budget to 2026. And again, you'll see bottom line is we are probably under, actually under what we're asking for in this budget. On this sheet here, I'll go to this one here. So I will say, this here has my revenues on it. This one here has my proposed revenues on it. I want to bring up one item, and that's the third item. It's got the little square box beside it. That's $2.4 million as income we're going to show. And again, this is going to be on an ER disaster road that up at Lake Alvin, down past the spillway there. We are doing a mitigation project up there. And again, I'll talk more about that maybe when I get into my project list for next year. But just wanted to have that shown in there, $2.5 million. And that's where we're taking it out of federal, right? That's gonna be moved to other intergovernmental revenues line items. So that 2.4 million is actually gonna be moved down to 339, about where I have highlighted on the sheet there. We're gonna move that number down there. So, but we're still gonna have that as income. That's gonna be shown as income because we have to pay for 80% of that project, and this will be the cost share on that, so.
Are we increasing that after also too?
I think we could maybe go to 2.6 on that. 80% of what, I have a cost estimate from the engineers. 80% is gonna probably put us about 2.6 million rather than 2.4. But that line item will be moved down to the other intergovernmental revenues down there, so.
Terry, there was an accident out there, I think, this last weekend?
Last week.
And a lot of folks are asking about, aircraft carrier cables on the side or, some kind of buffers or something like that. What is the plan and what are we gonna tell them? I mean, what are your thoughts?
So at this time, we're not going to be doing anything because we have a project coming up there next year. If anything needs to be in place, it'll be installed with the project next year.
Okay.
So, and I did talk to one individual up there near that lives up there that had concerns, and speaking with her, I told her the same thing. I guess I'm not sure what happened with that incident up there, and I guess I told her I don't really want to spend, in that long stretch, we're probably looking a couple $100,000 to put guardrail up there. And if we would have had it up there, it'd probably be gone because of the flood would have washed it away 3 times now. So, but with this new project, there will be something up there. I'm not sure if we'll get our clear zones, our slopes out far enough. I'm not sure how that's gonna work on plans yet. We may have to have cable up there or guardrail, I'm not sure. But that will be part of the new project.
But the important thing is there is gonna be something done. It's on the timetable driven by the money coming from the
Correct,
state.
correct. So and again, when I start talking about my projects, I'll kind of go over that a little more. As an ER project, like I said, we're in mitigation doing that, and, we're hoping to maybe bid late this year, for construction next year, so.
Thank you.
Terry, follow-up question. Is there a guideline as to when you have to put guardrails up or rails up or cables
That's
up?
a good question, and right now, we don't have anything implemented in the county that says, if your slopes are over this, that we need to have something. And that would be one of the reasons that we're doing this comprehensive safety action plan. That's gonna list out areas like this that may need these,
Okay,
so.
good.
But there are some standards out there, but we don't have anything adopted for the county.
But we'll get some recommendations coming in
Yep,
and we can take further action. Thank you.
yep. So, all right. I'm gonna go back to this sheet. This is a comparison. I guess if we just go through line items here, I'm not really the only line item that I want to talk about is gonna be the 429-2. Whoops, didn't want to do that. And that's my project line item. All these other costs, so this year, we are doing an average, a 4-year average on the line item 429-2, which is my project, because that's where I have my greatest differential in my costs, because we don't know what project costs are gonna be, what bids are gonna come in at. And prime example of that is this year I'm bidding, we had that preservation project. I have budgeted $5.1 million. Again, that's going on engineers' cost estimates for these projects, and the bids came in at 3.3. So that's why, and I believe we already did a supplement to the budget for that extra funding that I'll need for this year. So, and again, so just a heads up on this line item here, on this $6,079,876, that is a cost estimate. That's an average for the last 4 years for that line item only. So, going to that, I want to go into, this is my project list that I'm going to be having for 2026. And I'm going to tell you right now, that project list is going to cost more than that $6 million. I just want you to make sure you're clear on that, all right? That, right now, we're budgeting $6 million in that 429-2, and my final number for projects is just over 10 million. So that's an additional $4 million. Now, I will say that with this, 2.5 million will come back because of one project. And again, that's on that ER project that we're gonna be doing. So, first one I'm gonna go over is this, structure replacement. In the top, right corner up there, 3.2 million, almost $3.3 million. Again, that's up at Lake Alvin. That's for that project up there. Again, we're doing mitigation. I believe it's gonna be, I think we're looking at a triple barrel box. Not sure how big, if it's 10 by 10. I can't remember what size it was, but, almost $3.3 million for that project alone. This project, I will get 80% money back, but again, I'll have to expend that money first to get the money back on that project. Next project we have lined up is north of Lennox, County Road 105, County Road 116, at the Klondike Road up there. I have $1.6 million for a roundabout project that we're gonna be doing. The next project I have is a mill and overlay, and again, this is from I-29 on 280th Street. This is County Road 124. This will be going through Lennox. I have 3.5 miles going from the interstate over to 115, State Highway 115. And I have 2 miles going south of town down to Highway 18 that and this is gonna be a mill and an overlay. That is just under $1 million for that project. This channel work, right here, 158,000, that's a project that we had done, I believe it was 2015, 16. We had a bridge replaced down there, put in a double barrel box culvert. And we got some, with the flooding we've had in 19 and now 24 last year, the channel is not aligned properly on the box. So we're gonna have to do some channel work on that. And again, this is gonna be mitigation as well, through ER, but that's gonna be $158,000 for that. The hope is if we can maybe do that in-house. So, basically we'll have to rent some equipment, to do that. Another project we have is County Road 140. This is gonna be our 288th Street, west of I-29. It's gonna be 6.5 miles long. We're gonna do an FDR and stabilization on it. I'm not sure, I do have money, in my budget, for asphalt, for paving, for Lincoln County Forces to pave. I'm not sure if we'll get it paved this next year or not. We'll have to see how things go. Because we have a 7-mile stretch this year that we're working on, and I'm not, we'll have to see when they get ready for us to pave on that, this year. And, so it kind of depends on this year's project, how far I get paved on 134 this year. And again, that's all being done with county forces. Basically, it's just gonna be cost of asphalt to be the price. And that's $385,000 for FDR and stabilization. Next one we have is on County Road 117. This is gonna be just north of 140. This is a PE grant that we're gonna be applying for here next month, or in August. Again, that's gonna be taking place, the preliminary engineering, and that's gonna be through the big grant. But our cost share on that will be about $25,000. And the next one I have down there is another PE grant. This is on County Road 148, about a mile west of County Road 135. We're gonna be doing a preliminary engineering grant on that as well. So hopefully we'll get grants for both of those projects. Again, we'll be applying, I think it's August 1st, those are due, I believe. So I'll be coming back, having some grant applications for you guys to sign for those two projects. And the last project I have for 2026 is gonna be a microsurface. This is for just under $1.3 million for 15 and a half miles. This is going from Hudson over to County Road 117. If you recall, this was a project that we did FDR and a pave job on 2 and 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Right now, the DOT is using that as a detour for Highway 46 project. And again, we did get funding from the DOT as a cost share to help do that FDR and pave project down there. So next year, we're planning to get a micro on that and seal up anything and seal up that asphalt on there, So, again, I want to just reiterate that 429.2 line item is going to be around $10 million. So again, that's going to be $4 million more than what we have budgeted. And again, when it's over, we should get 2.5 of that back, so I should really only be looking for $1.5 million additional. But you'll end up having to expend that full amount to get the money back. And again, that's gonna be for, that bridge project up by Lake Alvin, so. I don't know that there's anything else that I wanna hit on these. I guess I do have, other costs. I had some engineering, I got bridge inspections, we'll have some State Streets for All grant money that we have to do yet. That's not all gonna be paid out this year, cause that's gonna probably go 5 months into next year. I got striping, striping is on here as well. And then other items, we have, salt and, sand salt. Next year, we're gonna have to crush gravel again. That's about 200,000 for that. I have crack sealing material in there, dust control, and then culverts, lining, and then I got some money in there for signs. So, and again, all these items will come up to that $10,062,000. So, any questions?
Terry,
Yes.
forgive my ignorance on acronyms. I'm assuming that the PE grant, you spelled that out as preliminary engineering?
Yes.
And what is FDR?
Full depth reclamation. Basically, you're grinding everything up.
Okay,
And then they grind it all up, they go through one pass, they grind the road up, grind up the asphalt, mix it with the base, they come back with another pass, and then they inject a stabilizing agent in there.
thank you.
Terry, thanks for the report. I've been talking to commissioners from other counties as well as city councilors lately about their engineering cost and how much they spend with outside engineering firms and things like that. And it's pretty eye-opening. Harrisburg recently started to insource their engineering. Have you given any thought, or do you have any, not to put you on the spot right now, but since we're having this budget conversation, have you given any thought to whether the county would save money by insourcing and having a county engineer or not?
We already have that position approved,
Okay,
and it should be in this budget.
it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, this was approved a year and a half ago, maybe? 4
Yeah.
years ago, 2 years ago.
At least.
I think
Yeah, I don't think
I think we got
pulled
it
the trigger
approved
on
2
it.
years ago.
Okay,
And we've been advertising, we've been looking,
okay.
but it's a struggle. It's a struggle to find anybody to come in here, and do it for, and again, I'm not sure what the drawback is. I don't know if it's the pay, it's the location, I'm not really sure.
Well, tell me this, what, do you know offhand what the cost savings are? And if you do, can we take that and increase the potential starting pay on this and still see cost savings?
I think, the way I presented it when we created this position is it'd be budget neutral. And again, that's because there's 4 projects I believe we could engineer in-house and not have to do it out-of-house. And those 4 projects would be a chip seal project, a micro project, pave mill and pave project, and then the striping project, and then possibly some culvert work, you know, doing some hydraulics and such on that. And again, I think the money that I spend doing that with our consultant now, I think we could probably pretty easily make up the money, you know. But again, like trying to get somebody to come in here. So we've been trying for a year and a half, off and on, and I've had a lot of really good candidates, but I'm getting a lot of folks that have multiple degrees, and I'm talking master's degrees, multiple master's degrees, and they're part of major studies, like nationwide studies in these huge University of Texas and places like that, that are wanting to come here, you know, for a job. And again, I just think that they're gonna be overqualified. You know, I just think they're gonna be bored coming to a place, you know, I mean, they're used to working, you know, with unlimited budgets, so to speak. You know, and doing their thing, and I think they come here, and I think it's gonna be a little slower paced than what they would probably be used to. And I think we have had two of them that we had serious consideration on. In fact, one guy here last year, we brought in, we wanted to bring him in for an in-person interview. Phone interview went great, and he was from Fargo, I believe. And I'm not sure if the day that he was supposed to come down and do the in-person visit with us, I'm not sure if he went to them and his firm he is with and got more money, because he called up that morning and said, yeah, I'm gonna stay here. So, which is unfortunate. And then just late last year, we did have a gentleman, he was from Pierre, but, and again, he was hoping there'd be more remote work, so. But, like I said, it's tough to find, and I know that, I know before Tracy had left, HR, the past HR, we were gonna run through the cycle of, what we were doing for recruiting, and then we were gonna sit down and talk about trying to revamp that position to get the more money out of that position somehow, so. And I've talked with Carrie about it, you know, and I know she's getting accustomed to her new stuff, and so it's just kind of waiting for her to, which is fine, you know. Like I said, we're gonna have a meeting and sit down and talk about what we can do to either make it a better position or more easily recruitable, but I will say it's a high needs field, and I think you have to pay to get somebody, so.
So you don't have another meeting set up with Carrie?
Not initially, no.
Okay,
But-
I
but
would
we
just
have it on-
suggest you do that.
Yeah, we have it on the docket to do, you know, so, yeah.
Further questions for our highway superintendent? If
Now, the
not-
only thing I did not go over is the equipment budget.
Okay.
And I do have Jared here to talk about that. What we're doing for equipment next year. So I guess if he wanted to come up and he can tell you what equipment we're looking to purchase for next year.
Okay.
So,
Thank
I
you.
think they'd love to have me.
Gerald? We would.
Jared Narum, Assistant Highway Superintendent. So what we're looking at doing here in '26, I have on the budget for 2 new trucks. How usually in our dump trucks that we have now, they're a 4 seasons truck, plow snow, haul gravel, do all the good stuff. Usually on our rotation, our trucks are in the main fleet for 13 years. After 13 years, they go into being spare trucks for an additional 2 to 4 years. So usually on these trucks, by the time we see them out the door, they're anywhere from 15 to 17 years old. We have a set of trucks right now that are 18 years old, but they should be leaving here this year once we get our last 2 trucks done with the body builds. So asking for the trucks for next year, then in '27, I'll be coming back and asking for equipment to put on those two trucks. with the time frame of going through, waiting for budget to get approved, and you go to order a truck, usually you don't see that truck for 6 months. So budgeting for equipment and everything in 1 year, it just doesn't work out, so we split it into 2. Also in this, I have for a new skid loader. It was the first track skid loader that we had bought back in 2014. And we bought it, it was kind of, I think that was an emergency deal, if I remember correctly, for the flood that happened and all the emergency repairs that were needed to make. So in as many floods as we've had since 2014, that thing has been ground zero and seen every single repair we've done. Right now, it's got about 3,600 hours on it, but it's still in use today, and that'll go all the way up until we surplus it, get rid of it. Also, I have in here for then our grapple bucket. That's roughly $6,000 for a grapple bucket to replace the one that we bought back in 2014 also. That thing's seen better days, even all the welding and trying to beef it up we've done. Laying riprap takes its toll on things. So also, we have for a new floor scrubber for the shop. This is essential in the shop for all of our salt that gets on the floor to preserve the concrete in the highway shop. I believe it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we had bought one with John, through John. The only thing is, with the machine that we had, I think it's safe to say it's not to the, we're not doing courthouse floors. We're doing a big shop floor. So I don't think the machine was probably a right fit for the job. So we're looking at one now, and I think the cost estimate on that was $28,500 for the new floor scrubber. We're going to be looking at sealing that concrete floor out at the shop again, possibly next year. It's a lot of dollars in concrete, whatever we can do to save it from the salt eating it. And that floor scrubber really works well. We run a salt neutralizer, just the same as we put on all of our equipment. We run that through that as well to neutralize any salt that's on the floor. Try to save it. And with that, I pretty much covered that if you have any questions. Overall, the budget is down from last year. I think we're about $115,000 less on that line item. And if you look at 24's number, that number looks pretty considerably high, but we also had snow equipment that didn't get done in 23, which tailed off into 24, so we had to pay for that. Then we also lost our payloader to the flood last year, so there was a payloader purchase in that one too, that had come forward to you for, that wasn't budgeted, so. Also in with that, you look down on debt service in the category 44 there. In with that, there's other stuff, but in that, we also have a motor grader payment for $85,100 for the new motor grader we just purchased. So that, and then we have included in on that interest there too, is for that motor grader payment. I think I've covered it now.
Jared, was that a Caterpillar? Road grader?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It's kind of a rite of passage, you know.
Well, you know, there's something to be said about service,
Yeah.
parts. One thing I didn't touch on, and since you said that, included in that number is also all of our diagnostic stuff. We have J-Pro that we use for diagnosing our dump trucks, stuff like that. We have a Snap-on tool. We have a annual service fee with that to upgrade our system for all of our new pickups that we get. And then we have a shop key. There's 2 levels of shop key. We use this for all of our automotives. We just got done with a pickup that it died on the road with us, and pull up wiring schematics and found a wire that had shorted the ground through shop key, being able to pull up all those wiring schematics. We also have the same level of service for all of our dump trucks. We get into dump trucks where we have, we're replacing knock sensors or, all these sensors on there. DEF dosers, they're a big issue. And then we also have Caterpillar's program. And with that also comes their full level of SIS, which is pulling up all of their wiring diagrams, how to fix things, if you're tearing into an engine, torque specs, all that stuff on how to fix this stuff. So there's quite a bit involved there, quite a bit going on at the highway shop for one mechanic and myself. So we'll talk next year. Little plug there. But we got a lot of equipment, and it takes a lot of equipment to make the county happen. And also, with these trucks, they're ground zero. They're in the salt. People complain about their cars getting rusted up, but these trucks are ground zero. They're the ones laying the chemicals out, so.
There's a lot of people on our highways, Jared.
Yes,
Yep.
yep.
Any other questions for Jared on the equipment that is proposed for next year?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment? Terry, any final conclusions?
No, I don't have anything else unless you have questions on anything, and I would encourage it, so I will say that here probably in a couple months, I will be back, with 5-year plan. To lay out the new 5-year plan that we'll have to do, that'll probably be September sometime, I'll be back, to get approval for that, so. Other than that, I would encourage any of you, if you have questions on projects, want to know things, how we do things at the shop, please stop out. Be more than willing to visit with any of you, so.
Terry, I've watched, I think the crews that put some things alongside of the road, and those traffic areas, I think your crew does a good job. I mean, very good job. And on a timely fashion, so. Least interruption, but quality work. So pass that along.
I will, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Thanks for a very comprehensive overview, too. Jared, thank you for the trucks, and let them know equipment-wise what we have, and I'll get used. Appreciate it. We now have number 5, which is State's Attorney, Mr. Woolman.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmidt. Good timing. I've got some modest increases compared to what was just presented to the commission here. Side note, we get our used vehicles from the Sheriff's Department, although I may have to look into some of those dump trucks for our investigators. Maybe they could go deep cover in a beat-up old dump truck, I don't know. But we don't have a huge increase to our budget lines for next year. Our biggest expenses, of course, are salaries and comp. Currently, we have an open attorney position in the office that was funded, or that's been funded through this entire year. We have not been able to fill that, but we anticipate filling it soon. Of course, with the addition of that person, there would be some increased line costs for books, for training, travel and conference, et cetera. Additionally, a senior trial position is included in the proposed as well, or senior trial positions, plural, excuse me. But again, I think that the increases are in 4271, which is going to cover mileage, service, and then we've got an increase for trainings, as Mr. Ahrens would know. It sounds like the state bar is going to mandate CLE training starting next year. So that would mean that the 9 attorneys, soon to be 10 attorneys in the office, would each need to have continuing legal education hours, which may add, again, a modest amount to that training and conference budget. Also included in there would be our JDIA position, the diversion coordinator. She needs to have hours of training as well. But with that being said, those amounts are refunded to us through the grant that we have. So not significant increases for next year. Any questions about what we have proposed at this point?
What are rentals?
Rentals would be our copier and things of that nature.
Oh, we don't own those?
No.
Okay.
Tom, What is the plan for the furniture to go into the new courthouse if we open in September of '26?
It's my understanding that it would be new furniture at the courthouse, and then we would leave our existing furniture for whoever moves into our office suite.
And then are we purchasing that with the opt-out money from the courthouse bond money, or are we doing that through the regular general fund money?
The bond money.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Further questions for Tom or for our state's attorney?
All right.
Tom, will that, in that move for you, will that cause you, that going to be seamless, or how are you planning on that thing?
I would anticipate, given how proficient our IT department is, that things will go smoothly.
Okay.
I mean, we
That's a-
effectively take our offices to court every day. I mean, we
So
take
that's
our
the biggest-
laptops, our laptops, the necessaries, the accoutrements that go along with them. I'm confident that Jake and his team will have set up and ready to go for us when we move. So some files, but certainly not like we used to, because we're mostly paperless at this point.
So IT will be the biggest gorilla in the room. When they flip a switch from turn it off here to put it over there, you're ready to go.
Yep.
Tom, a couple of things. What are we seeing as far as the number of felonies and that kind of stuff? Are we seeing leveling off at all, or are we seeing still an increase?
I think it's still a slight increase. Hearing the weed board the other day and Mr. Floyd's comments this morning, I would say that Canadian thistle is the equivalent of a methamphetamine addiction. We know that we can hit it with some Grazon HL or possibly some Tordon and knock it back if we get it before it flowers, because we know that it spreads by seed and it spreads by root, and it's a very difficult addiction to knock out. I would say that leafy spurge is the fentanyl addiction, and that takes a much more heavy application and a consistent application to knock it back. And those, along with alcohol, are driving what we do here. It's tearing apart the fabric of our community, those two drugs, along with alcohol addictions, and they just aren't going away. So how we choose to deal with them as a community and as a state, it's just, it really it's just going to continue to be problematic unless we make some changes as to how we're dealing with our addicted offenders.
Tom, this is a question, and this is personal from me to you. I mean, you're one of the few state's attorneys in South Dakota that's carrying a caseload itself. How many of those are you carrying? Are you with a full-time equivalent plus your job as being our state's attorney? Would you kind of clarify that? It's
Yeah.
okay if you blow your horn a little bit, all
Well,
right? You
no,
should.
it's just, it is what it is, and, we've been kind of at that size where, like, I need to carry that caseload because we want to keep an eye on the bottom line in our budget. Obviously, personnel and salaries and that comp is our biggest part of our budget, so we don't want to overwork the attorneys, so I just continue to maintain, over 100 active felonies and continue to work with my office administrator, my chief civil deputy, and the lead paralegal to manage the office. Whatever it takes to get the job done right,
Get done.
right? So.
I just think, Tom, that, sometimes we overlook and we may not appreciate the dedication that you and the rest of our staff has to get that job done, and how much responsibility they take on in addition to being a department head or being, in your case, state's attorney. So I congratulate you and thank you for that.
Well, I've got a great team, a great team in terms of the attorneys and the staff that we have on board, along with the investigators. But, we handled a major sentencing last week and on a homicide case that had originated back in 2020. So it's been about 5.5 years for us to get it across the finish line. And that was an all-hands-on-deck investigation from the Sioux Falls Police Department and our sheriff's office. So they do great work, and they bring us good cases, and that helps the overall process and the efficiencies that we have. So it takes a team, and we've got a great team upstairs. And with the addition of another attorney, with the addition of these mid-level supervisory positions within the office, that will help efficiencies and management of the team moving forward.
Further questions for Tom at all?
Tom, thanks for, I wasn't going to bring this up originally, but since you brought it up, thank you for bringing it up about the scourge of drug and alcohol crime. I'm concerned that our current laws don't have a deterrent enough effect on drug and alcohol crime, and I'm also concerned our current state laws don't protect property taxpayers from having to pay for that. I mean, do we need there to be stiffer penalties in these drug and alcohol crimes in order to have a more deterrent effect or not?
I would say this. I would say that the penalties that are available currently under state law are sufficient to address, from a punitive or punishment standpoint. I think that where we're missing the mark is on the rehabilitative side of our component of those sentences, and the services that we have available to deal with those offenders. I could talk all day about what probation is and isn't doing. I could talk all day about what parole is and isn't doing. But that's where we're really missing the mark. We've got probationers who continue to violate not only probation but state law throughout the pendency of their probationary terms. Whether it's not completing treatment or continuing to abuse those substances. And we've got parolees who, are doing basically the same thing, where they really aren't being held accountable to the level that they need to be held accountable. When I started in July of 2000, 25 years ago this month, I would say that parole still enforced the no drink rule, where parolees couldn't be drinking. And if they were caught drinking, there would be some sort of intermediate sanction. Gone are those days. And we have parolees that not only violate the no drink rule, but they also ingest controlled substances and violate other laws, felony laws, really without any ramifications or repercussions. So it isn't until we recharge those individuals that something happens to sort of break that cycle, at least through the pendency of those new cases. So that's where we need to, in my opinion, we need to look at revamping how we're dealing with those addicted offenders, both on the parole side and on the probation side. And again, could talk all day about it, but I think that's where we've kind of missed the mark in not having services and not managing those probationers and parolees the way that we should. And that all costs money, and nobody's wanted to step up and bring, quite frankly, UJS or DOC the monies necessary to be able to manage those probationers. So I think that's been our biggest shortcoming. But yeah, on a controlled substance charge, there's 5 years available to the court if there are aggravating factors present. Usually it's a probationary sentence as mandated. And I think that's sufficient, depending upon the case. DWI offenses, a DWI third is class 6 felony, which would be up to 2 years in the pen. But again, that's a presumptive probation case, so it's going to be some county jail or mostly electronic monitoring, and hopefully that has a deterrent. But we have these DWI 5s and 6s that have never really spent any appreciable time in jail, and that's a little problematic. But again, hopefully the sentences that are being shaped find their mark, but they don't always. So
of the, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago when I sat down with Bill Golden, said, hey, how much does this cost the county for DUIs? And I think it was 2023, we had like 360 DUIs, basically one a day. Of those, what percentage do you think is first-time offender versus repeat? If you had to guess.
Well, repeat that we've actually interdicted on. I mean, NHTSA or the
Yeah.
National Highway Safety Institute would say that a person can operate a vehicle under the influence of alcohol about 100 times before they get caught.
Well, maybe what I should say is.
So the ones that we're interdicting.
In a year, how many
interdicting on.
DUI ones are there versus others?
I don't have the breakdown, but.
And here's what I'm trying to get at, Tom, is the legislature has this summer study committee going with the property taxes. And we've got this unique situation here in South Dakota where, state's attorneys, where indigent defense is fully funded at the county level. So it's incumbent upon property taxpayers to pay for that. And as I understand it, there's only one or maybe two states in the nation who fund their indigent defense that way at the county level. It wasn't Pennsylvania one of them, but maybe they recently switched or something. And that leaves us. And what I noticed at that discussion is, at least the meeting I went to in Sioux Falls, there was no UJS rep there on the committee. There was no state's attorneys in the audience there. There was no law enforcement. I think Chief Thune from Sioux Falls was supposed to be there, but he had to leave early. And what I'm concerned about is because, you just hit the nail on the head, is what's driving some of our cost is the fact that we don't have resources coming in from other parts of the state. Because at the county, we don't fund probation and officers and parole enforcement and all those sorts of things, right? That's all UJS funded, and some of the rehab and the treatment and those things. And so what I'm trying to figure out here is, and get this message out, is if you don't put a little more money in from the state, you are thereby going to increase and put upward pressure on county property taxpayers, because we have to come back and prosecute these people. And that's why I get at this question of how many are a first-time offender, i.e. first time, or, maybe they'll never do it again, right? They get a one-time DUI and they learn their lesson. So what I'm trying to figure out is how much of this deterrent effect can be created by using increased fines and fees versus how much of it is repeat offenders who have severe addiction issues. And once we figure out those issues and numbers, I think then we can kind of figure out the plan forward for how we're going to deal with this.
And I could break out our numbers, but I don't know that our numbers would be the same as Minnehaha or Pennington or Hughes,
Right.
in terms of who our offenders are.
Right.
But I can tell you across the board, my constituents want me to be involved in those cases. I mean, as yours do as well. I think that the overwhelming feedback is that we need to continue on with what they're doing. And I think that there are members of our public that are kind of outraged that we aren't doing more to stem the tide or the curb the tide of what we've got going. So, but we're doing our best to shape sentences per the particular defendant involved to hopefully get the attention of that offender and get them the help that they need, because we certainly don't want to see them again.
Well, just one last question. Is this presumptive probation still somewhat of a hindrance? Or is it generally being accepted by folks in law enforcement now? Is it effective or not?
I think that in the Second Circuit, we'd been practicing presumptive probation well before 2012, with jail sentences for DWI thirds. I mean, that was really the impetus of it, the DWI third Class 6 felony land, so to speak. And I think that, we've taken what used to be about a 120-day jail sentence down to 30 days of electronic monitoring. And I worry that maybe that's lost its teeth, and it doesn't necessarily have that impact on the offender. And again, it's per offender, right? I mean, 120 days for anyone in this room would be a significant impact on their personal lives. There are offenders who could do it standing on their head. So we need to shape sentences that again, get the attention of the offender, but it's really changed the punishment aspect or the punitive aspect of some of those offenses, and it's really lowered that, I think, just since 2012, since its inception. And of course, it promised that there would be swift consequences for violations, and we just don't have that. I get a probation violation on someone that's had multiple hot UAs, whether it be for alcohol or methamphetamine, multiple missed visits, maybe they drop out of MRT, maybe they've been terminated from treatment, and it isn't until about a year later that I get a probation violation on them because they've absconded and have fallen off the radar of probation. And that is not a swift consequence. And so by not keeping involved with that offender's, life and supervised probation, we've let them down and we've let the community down. So I think that the idea of having suspended executions of penitentiary sentences is a good idea for low-level felonies. Mandating them has tied the court's hands on a few cases, but predominantly that's what we're looking to do anyway. We can't send a DWI third to the penitentiary. It's just, unless they've proven themselves that they're going to continue to be a danger to the community, or there's some extenuating circumstances that would warrant that strong of a sentence. So jail sentences or electronic monitoring are appropriate for those lower-end felonies, but the management of those probationers is really, I think, the biggest component of where we're not meeting the mark, so to speak. So,
Thank you, Tom.
yep, thank you.
Further questions for Tom? Any-
Well, I just want to jump in too about what Commissioner Schmidt had said about your office and what you do personally, because I know that the caseload that you do is, like he said, not throughout the state. So congratulations to you. I hope you get your new attorney quickly, and your staff that we work with are incredible as well. So thank you for them as well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, Tom, excuse me, one thing, it's been great discussion, great discussion. I don't expect you, but come back some more, because we'd like to listen and learn from that. Okay. Next item.
Public.
Public comment for Tom. Hearing none, we'll go to number 6, which is the budget from our auditor.
We'll make that plural. Because I got about 7 of them that I'm going to talk about. Sherry Lund, Lincoln County Auditor. The first one I'm going to talk about is the election budget. And obviously, the increase on that is due to the 2026 election cycle. I am going to request an increase in supplies and materials in the amount of $2,500. I found a program that we can use to track election workers, make it so that they can apply online to be an election worker, send out notifications to them. It should alleviate a lot of stress for Kayla because she currently tracks them on about 4 different spreadsheets. That $2,500 is a software subscription type thing, so it would be in every year. The next one is going to be the auditor budget. And the largest increase on that is going to be my request for a vehicle. And I'm sure everybody's asking, why does the auditor's office need a vehicle? When I put the request in for the budget for the vehicle, it's not just the auditor's vehicle. It would be a vehicle for the county, for anybody to use for any out-of-county travel. The auditor, treasurer, registered deeds, commissioner, state's attorneys, sheriff's office, and other department heads all have trainings that they need to attend. Instead of taking the smaller Equinox like we do for the Director of Equalization's office, she graciously gives it to us most whenever we ask. It would be a vehicle that everybody could pile into and all travel together. During the election time, it's not uncommon for me to have to go to precincts, deliver equipment and everything else. During the last 5 years, I've used my personal vehicle for this, and I have not requested mileage reimbursement at all. I just think it's time that with all the different activities that we have going on, that there would be a vehicle available specifically for county use, and we wouldn't have to take it away from another department that depends on the vehicle. The support of poor, the increases in that budget is, I've discussed it with, we do case management through Minnehaha County. South Dakota Cares is ending, so there will be a probably increased request for utilities and rental payments. So we did do a increase on those budgets for those. Also, we have, we don't know what's gonna happen with Medicaid, so there might be more requests for medical, whichever. And the funeral directors in the area are requesting higher reimbursement rates for the indigent burials. Mental illness budget, this is on a 3-year average. So that's where you see the increase from there. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's just what we're doing over the 3 years. I do have on Fund 429-400. I missed that, putting any amount in there, so I'm going to put $3,000 into that line. Rural fire protection is a pass-through budget. That budget is what we collect in taxes, then I send out, so that's where the increase is at. The 7.4 is the projected CPI and growth numbers. There will probably, before the end of the budget cycle, see an increase to that when I get my finalized numbers for the growth factor. Debt service tip number 8 and 9, these are technically not debt service. They are also a pass-through budget, so the taxes that I collect for the TIFs, I transfer right over to Lennox and Harrisburg. At the end of May, tip number 8 has a balance of $2,433,000 or $243,064.50. That needs to be paid out by April 26, 2036. Tip number 9 has a balance of $5,816,252.93, and that needs to be paid out by April 7th, 2040. And with those numbers, it's whichever comes first. So if the dollars are there or the end date, just like any other tip, that's how that's determined. The last thing that I want to talk about is Lincoln County's debt service. We have currently 3 different debt services. We have the courthouse, the highway shop, and the justice center. The courthouse was from 2013, and at the end of 2025, this will be paid off. The highway shop was from 2016, and at the end of 2025, the balance will be $4,125,000 with an expected payoff of 2035. And the Justice Center is the new one from 2023. At the end of 2025, the balance will be $54,125,000 with the expected payoff of 2052. And those are the budgets that I was going through to determine that we probably needed to touch base on. Were there any questions or anything else? Joel?
First of all, thank you, and thank you for the work you've been doing. I have heard more feedback from people about this vehicle than you could imagine. Is there just some, I was doing the math on these equalization vehicles, and the Board of Equalization puts about 5,000 miles a year on their vehicles. You divide that by 365, that's about 13 miles a day. Is there no way that we can just use this entire fleet of vehicles that we have in the county better than having to buy a new 7-person vehicle at this time?
Well, the only thing about it is, okay, so if we were to say, hey, we got this director of equalization vehicles, I have a meeting going to Pier in September. Well, they're out doing their reappraisals in September, so who's not gonna be able to go in a car? Me or them? And, you don't wanna take the sheriff's vehicle because obviously they're out patrolling. So I don't know which vehicle, who you would want to not have a vehicle so that we can go to our trainings.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, it just, regular taxpayers typically wouldn't buy a vehicle just to go to one or 2 meetings a year. You know what I mean?
The auditor, treasurer, and register of deeds has 3 meetings, trainings to go to, 4 district meetings. And that's just our 3 offices. You know, the state's attorneys talked to you about that they're gonna be doing more trainings, and I'm pretty sure they're not gonna be in Lincoln County. So the 7-person vehicle, is it too much? I don't know. You know, when you get somebody going out to Rapid City for a week and you've got even 4 people in there and then they get their luggage and, you know, type of thing. It's not uncommon. There's several counties that have a vehicle for this type of situation. Does it need to go under it can go under your budget, I don't care. I just think it's something that needs to be done because I can't expect my deputy to drive her car out to Pier when she has training. Regardless if you're paying mileage or not.
Yeah, I don't want her to either. What I'd rather see is just some kind of analysis of the availability of this fleet of vehicles that we have here in the county.
And then what?
That's all I'm getting
No, and I understand that, but if you don't have a dedicated vehicle for people to use for training, you get to the point where it's like, hey, it's September, I have to go and there's not a vehicle available. Then what do you do?
Yeah.
You know? And does it have to be a 7-passenger? No, I was looking at, the 55,000 was just a number to put in there until I can figure out first, if it was gonna be approved. Second, I've been looking at the state bids, you know, and they've got like vans, I think it was a Pacifica or something like that for 36,000. So does it have to be the 55,000? No, that was just a starting point because we are in this budget work sessions.
Okay. No, I appreciate it, thank you.
Anything else?
Other questions for our auditor? How much more you got?
I'm done.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? You know, Sherry, another thing I wanted to tell you is I know you spent, we started this process here months ago to reevaluate our budget and to go about it in a different fashion, and I congratulate you because I think that we have more clarity, and I think department heads have appreciated it, so I think our budget process is now probably one of the best, I'm always saying that, in the state.
Oh, no, we've got a long way to go.
Oh, don't say that, because we got other 65 counties that look to us for leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to kid around, but I do think we've made a great progress, Sherry, so I thank you for that. Is there any public input that anybody would have from, for our auditor budget?
Linda Montgomery from Fairview, South Dakota. I'm just going to go off, my questions were what Commissioner Aaron's brought up. I was trying to figure out how many vehicles Lincoln County actually has. I'm used to military, you have a motor pool. On my civilian job, if I needed a car, I put it in a request and if it was available, otherwise I drove. I don't see driving your own car as something that's offensive. I mean, I did it my whole career. I think with these vehicles, I understand people need vehicles, but what I think when you look at everybody who comes up wants a new car, it kind of gets overwhelming, and you kind of look, how many cars does Lincoln County have in their motor pool? What is the insurance? What is the mileage on these vehicles? Who does the maintenance on these vehicles? Who takes them home? Who doesn't? I think that, having a van, for certain transport things, that makes sense. But when you look at them and it says, either the auditor or 4-H now wants a car, these two areas have never had cars before that I can find. And, I can be totally wrong because I had trouble even counting up the number of cars and fleets. We had a really good report last time from one person came up and she has a fleet of vehicles for her department. I really think for the public's awareness, and I think for even the people who work here, it would be nice to know. I need a vehicle, like she said, in September. You know, do you actually know how many vehicles sit during the day? Where are they stored? What are they doing? I would prefer to see like a motor pool that, I mean, they can give their own report. These are the number of cars. I have 223,000 on my car. I drove to Milwaukee and back this summer. I drive to Pier and back, I have no problems. I can understand with the sheriff not wanting over 150,000 for his cars. But as the state's attorney said, that he gets those cars that are over that. And I would think that there would be more than just the state's attorney's office that would need those. And I don't think, my position is, if you say that the state's attorney has the cars, are other departments able to use them? And I just think it seems like this year, and maybe I haven't sat in enough and that's of these meetings to go, I am almost, I'm taken away about the people needing cars and wanting cars. And in my career, I have never been allowed that, but it's just one of those things. And when you travel to go for extended periods of time, I did all that on my own dime. I got the what they were paying at the time for mileage, but sometimes I think we ask too much. But I would like to see a centralized area so that people can look and say, Lincoln County has this in their motor pool. And make sure that everyone has access to those and can sign up for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Linda, I would say that as we continue to grow, you probably will see that happening, but for now. Any other questions or comment? Anyway, thank you, Sherry. Now we'll go to number 8, or number 7, excuse me. Mr. Rambo, you want to talk about buildings and grounds and all your good stuff that you get to do?
I sure will. John Rombo, Building Superintendent. All right, my overall budget will be less than last year's request, but of course, as you know, my budget's always weighted heavily off of projects, and I was heavily loaded with projects this year compared to some years, so it's understandable that would be less. But I'll just go right down the list. My insurance would be about what I think it's in the budget this year. Sherry and I made the change of putting some of the building insurance for the general fund buildings will be insured underneath of my budget, so we added that to this year's budget, and it'll roll over next year. The professional fees, my intent is to increase that by $20,000, and at that time, I was thinking that I'll have some architectural engineering type fees for discussing the new, or the old courthouse. And I thought I'd put that in for next year's budget. Now, that could actually have to roll into this year's budget, depending on where we fall with that, with the committee as we're meeting. So there'll be more discussion there. Repairs and maintenance, I decreased it by $22,000. Now, this is a direct result of the fact that, well, quite honestly, I have a HVAC employee now that saves us a lot of money. So I felt like I was comfortable with decreasing that down $22,000 just from what I'm seeing for his savings right now that he's given us, and I think it could be deeper than that, but I felt comfortable with $22,000. Supplies and materials, I increased by $15,000, and that's just because of the new building. So as you can imagine, I'll have toilet paper and you name it that'll have to be put in a new building. It's kind of a guessing game a little bit for me, but, I'm kind of thinking still that there's a certain amount of people that are coming through this building now, and it's kind of going to be spread out over 2 buildings, so I'm kind of hoping that the $15,000 will meet that need. my travel and conference and, training, now that I've got, the staff I have, I'd kind of like to start giving them a little more training, so I just upped it a little bit, to try to get them out for training. Well, at the very least, now I have two people besides myself that are gonna be herbicide applicators, so that extra, that's by itself about $400 a year increase, so. Utilities, once again, I increased that $35,000 because of the new building. Like, once again, it's a little bit of a guessing game for me. It's hard to say what those overall numbers are, but I kind of took this building and I took the fact that I'll have to, pay the utilities for probably 4 months next year on the new building. So that's where I came up with that number. So then we go into buildings and structures. On your guys' spreadsheet that's up here, that shows it's 61% decrease, and that's where I was saying that my projects have changed a little bit. What I do kind of am hoping to accomplish next year is I would like to put air conditioning in the event hall at the 4-H grounds. It's definitely a need if we're gonna keep using it for any time of the year or any time of the summer months. That I also have in there that I would like to put money towards a septic system upgrade for the fairgrounds. Now, this was thinking that the building committee, the 4-H, or I shouldn't say the 4-H, the Lincoln County Buildings Foundation, Fairgrounds Foundation, if they could raise the money to put up a bathroom, we obviously gotta have the septic system to run it, so, I felt like it should be on the county's burden probably to pay for the septic system. And then quite honestly, and somewhere in the near future, we're probably gonna have to look at some kind of upgrades to the existing, septic system, because we were kind of struggling in the wet years, and we haven't had any problems for like 3 years now, but those wet years will come back, and I'm sure I'll have some headaches in the future. Then I have my normal carpeting / painting projects. I upped that a little bit because of the fact that, as people vacate this building to move to the new building, even the offices and just this side that I know will have to get occupied, we'll paint and probably put new carpet in. So I upped that about twice of what I normally do in a year. And I think that's pretty realistic. So I'm also asking, would like to put a cargo storage container, and we'll probably locate it at the old 4-H grounds, or the 4-H grounds. Just because, as you see when you're over there, we have a lot of chairs, we have a lot of tables, and sometimes they're just in the way. We pretty much need all the floor space for multiple events during the year, and sometimes all that stuff's just in the way, and we don't really have any other storage room in there. So it'd be nice to be able to shuttle the majority of the equipment out into a storage building and then bring it in as needed for the bigger events. So that moves on to improvements other than, so that's kind of like sidewalk improvements, fencing improvements, that sort of thing. As you can see from this year's budget line, that's also a decrease from last year, but I did have some pretty good expenditures this year. I'm basically sticking to my normal sidewalk improvements. I've got $15,000 in for that. I'd still like to keep improving fencing over at the 4-H grounds. At the end of this year, I'll have 2 full sides done. I'm pretty happy with where we're at after this year, but obviously if we can keep moving forward and making it a safer fence type situation, it'd be better. And then the only other thing on there is just gravel amendments and sand amendments for the horse arena. Horse arenas have a tendency to eat sand. I don't know why, but as they use them, the sand kind of gets pushed into the ground, and so we have to do amendments every year or two. Same with gravel. You know, when we did the project, we didn't put any gravel into it. So we've been slowly adding gravel and keeping the roads from being soft by just adding gravel every year. So that brings us down to furniture and minor equipment. So I too am one of the guys on the list that's asking for a vehicle. Now I'm talking about replacing a vehicle So I have the 2012 Chevy Silverado, that you've probably seen parked out here in the gravel. That's one of 4 pickups that I have in the department. My intent is, so that's got about 164,000 miles on it. I've had to put a transmission in that pickup. It started out as the highway superintendent's pickup originally, then it went down to the Jared's pickup for a while, and then I took it from them to use it because I flat out needed another vehicle. That vehicle then is gonna be more critical to me than anything once we occupy the new building. So my intent is probably to put that order in at the beginning of the year with the hopes I would have it by midsummer, and then I'd have it. Because right now, typically we have 2 people in one pickup, and me in one pickup and one for other person in another pickup. But as we start getting divided up, because one of my maintenance staff is gonna have to report to the new building daily, and then we're gonna be running around bouncing back and forth. And that's, a lot of times what we're doing is we're moving to meet up to work together as groups, but it's just where the pickup's located at, kind of a thing, if it's in the right spot for the right person at the right time. And then I just have my normal miscellaneous tools and equipment that I normally have. So any questions?
John, you're intending to want to hire another FTE for the new courthouse,
Oh,
right?
sorry, thank you. I skipped that. Yes, I do. I do need an FTE for
And then that person ostensibly would just be stationed there like they are here, and they would just do their work from there, right?
So the FTE is a custodial position. And so my intent for next year, for 2026, is to have 2 custodians here and 2 custodians there, and having one person float back and forth. That's probably going to become very overwhelming. So that's where, when I did my presentation this spring, I truly believe probably my 2027 budget next year, I'll be requesting an additional FT as well.
Is that a custodian who floats back and
Correct.
forth?
It'd be the custodial lead.
Okay.
How many is in your crew now, John?
I have 4 custodians, 3 maintenance workers, and myself.
Okay.
And what are you gonna do with this 2012 Chevy Silverado?
Well, so I would I'd like to upgrade it to a 3/4 ton pickup. I'm not planning on putting a plow on it now, but just for the idea that if the day were to come and I would need to put a plow on it, it would be large enough to have a plow on it. Right now, between my 2 full-size pickup, or 1-ton pickups, and the airport's 1-ton pickup, we can manage the snow removal that we have to do. But if any one vehicle breaks down, we're always gonna be in a pinch, and snow removal's hard on vehicles, so it's not uncommon for us to lose a vehicle. But otherwise, it'll be a runner for running to get equipment and get stuff from Sioux Falls and that sort of thing. It'll be located here in Canton.
So John, saying that you will have to, on the new building, you will have to take care of the snow and everything up there, right?
Correct.
4-H grounds, and sometimes you help at the airport. So you got 3 different areas that you cover.
We routinely are at the airport during snow.
Yeah.
It's the last priority of my snow removal, unless something major is going on and Dave needs us there ASAP. That's happened where he's just said, we've got to get it done right away. But, yeah, so between doing snow here, doing snow at what will be the new building, the 4-H grounds, and airport, that's
So actually you got about 4 places,
correct.
potentially. Questions or comments for John? Hearing none, do we have any public input on Mr. Rambo's budget? Hearing none, John, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have, moving along, we now have Mr. Anderson, Paul, talking about outside agency funding.
Yeah. Hi, Paul Anderson, your commission admin assistant. I'm here to present the recommendations for outside agency funding from the budget committee. We've had several of them come in and talk to you, and then the committee reviewed applications and testimony, and we're here to present the recommendations. So, first things first, the budget committee proposes that, excuse me, requests / dues to the Canton Chamber of Commerce, Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce, Sioux Falls Development Foundation, Sioux Metro Growth Alliance, and Forward Sioux Falls be zeroed in the proposed budget for 2026. The committee just kind of believed that there should be some established policy or some uniformity in supporting economic development in the county, and not just be limited to Canton and Sioux Falls. So that, again, that is the Canton Chamber of Commerce dues, the Sioux Falls Development Foundation dues, the Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce dues, Sioux Metro Growth Alliance, and Forward Sioux Falls. Those come out, and I actually don't have, so most of those come out of the commission dues budget, which is about 17,000. And then Sioux Metro Growth is its own line here. It is under dues in the dues one? I thought that was just Forward Sioux Falls. Okay, so the Forward Sioux Falls and Sioux Metro Growth were moved into dues as well. So they will no longer, so the recommendation from the committee was that those be zeroed. The next recommendation would be that the $22,000 in the funding request for the Lincoln County Soil Conservation District be zeroed in the proposed budget. The funding request is a majority of revenue for the Soil Conservation District, and the district could maybe evaluate other long-term options for their feeds and stuff instead of, so there. For other economic assistance, the line item 101-4410, 42900, it had decreased a little bit from 2025. That was just due to shifting around where some items were located. But for the 2026 budget, the budget committee proposes that the funding for the entities that exist in it remain at their 2025 budget allocation level. Now, it'll look different than it does there, again, because some of it has changed. And that we create a competitive process for allocating non-statutorily required funds in the 2027 budget. The committee would propose that they design a process for this competitive allocation of funds and present it to the board for approval during the 2027 budget process next year. And the last part of our recommendations would be in the county library. Going forward in this year, there are 6 libraries that we fund: Beersford, Lennox, Hudson, Harrisburg, T, and Canton. They had all gotten various different amounts in the past. This year, we propose giving every library the same amount of $5,000. I think our total spend in '25 was $27,000. This would increase that to $30,000, but every library would get the same amount of $5,000. So that's just the basics. I can go into in-depth more if you have other questions on things. If you want any, to discuss anything, just let me know.
Paul, how did the committee arrive at the dollar amount of $222,000 going to these other undecided as of yet entities pending adoption of a competitive process?
That's not the amount.
No, it is,
The amount is 188,028. And so that's where it would, whoops, that's where it would be going to. And that's based on their last year's request, or what we paid them last year. And the triage center is being taken off of there because we planned on using the opioid monies to pay that rather than having it coming out of the economic assistance.
But are we gonna do the competitive process, or are we gonna do this?
We're gonna do the competitive process next year because we're already in the middle of the budget process, so we don't have a process in place for them to do it.
But this is for next year.
No, for 27, I mean.
So not next year, we're gonna do competitive process for 2027.
Yes,
Not next year.
Correct.
Which is 2026.
correct.
Correct.
Okay, so we're gonna keep giving the money to these entities right here.
At their 2025 levels,
24.
2020, the money they requested in 2024 for this year, 2025 budget, the money that we paid them this year, we'll keep it at that level rather than entertaining the increases asked for. So we'll keep it at the 2025 level that was approved for this year. And then next June, when we're preparing the 2027 budget, we'll have a competitive process to determine how we're allocating the funds.
Why can't we just do that for this year? Can't we just
Well,
start
we're already
doing
into
that
the
now?
budget process, so then we don't have a process. Do you have one?
Well, I don't think it would take, it's a good question. I don't think it would take too long. I mean, here's the thing. Sioux Falls said they were gonna do the same thing. They're doing that for 2026.
Right, but yeah.
So what I'm saying is if we're gonna steal their idea, which is, it's a great idea, can't we just figure it out in the next few months and do competitive? I think there's a lot of great nonprofits out there. They do a lot of great things, but county property taxpayers are a little more discerning now. And they're kind of, I think, wanting something more. And I think maybe the time has come for where we need to reevaluate whether all these nonprofits should be receiving all this property taxpayer money or not. Because we could reinvest some of that money into vehicles and FTEs and all the other things we were talking about today. That's my thoughts on it.
You know, Commissioner, I don't have a problem with some of that, but some of those we pay, some institutions we pay per capita, don't we?
Well, those would be,
Southeast
this would be.
Mental Health, don't we pay?
Not those.
Yeah, so this would be for the entities that are not statutorily required.
Yep.
So, yeah, Southeastern Behavior is a statute mandated by state, so they would be separate from this.
I mean, we got this committee talking about property tax relief, and they're really putting the scrutiny to county commissions now, and there's just a lot more scrutiny of all this now.
Well, you have consequences.
Yeah.
I was thinking a couple of comments on this thing. On your libraries, do you ever give any consideration to the amount of usage? You know, I mean, I looked at that and would say, if you have a high concentration of public usage or kids that come into uses, that to me warrants a larger one than a carte blanche situation that you may have somebody that walks in once a month to use a library. So I don't know that I'm that comfortable with the just to give everyone 5,000. I think you could budget your $30,000 and disseminate that amongst the usage that libraries have. That to me makes more sense. The other part is, I know that you guys don't like to support things like that go on in Sioux Falls, like the Chamber of Commerce or the Development Foundation or Sioux Metro Growth Alliance. My comment is, don't bite the hand that feeds you, because the growth that Lincoln County has appreciated over time just didn't happen because of Lincoln County. we haven't done a whole lot. Our concentration, for the most part, is always on the southern part of our county, which deals with roads and bridges and deals with animal confinements. But the growth of having commerce and industry come here has been because of those agencies that are continually fostering and doing prospect work to, and using our county as one of their showplaces. So I just think that pulling all of that out is bad timing, and in my judgment, not a wise thing for us to do, because I think we live on growth, and we need to continue that relationship with those organizations. That's my take.
You know, Commissioner, you bring up an interesting point, because we're still very large in Ag County, and not one single entity that we're giving all that property taxpayer money to is an agriculturally related entity. They're all social welfare, they're all nonprofits, which means they don't pay any taxes. We got such a huge ag influence in this county, and we don't give money to any agricultural related entity. So I think what you're bringing up is a good point, is maybe we're spending all this taxpayer money just because these folks came in front of us. That doesn't just mean that they should be able to get the money just because they came here in front of us and asked for it.
Well, I think we're distinguishing, Commissioner, between the nonprofits that are social direction versus the other ones like the Development Foundation for Sioux Falls or the Chamber.
I think that our thought behind that was, we're giving to Sioux Metro Growth Alliance, but what about Harrisburg Economic Development, T Economic Development, Worthing Economic Development? Why are we only giving it to these certain people and not everybody? So until we figure out a way to give it to everybody, we shouldn't be giving it to two. That was kind of what our thought process was behind it.
I would agree with you in this regard, that because of the umbrella that the Development Foundation in Sioux Falls has, they make it possible for local development agencies to participate and be part of that network. But by itself, I don't think that a development foundation necessarily has the scope and the covering that the one does that comes in. So you have an umbrella agency our development group comes in that's going to look at the area, and that is what they bring in versus what your local individual communities have to be able to participate. So I look at it from a macro standpoint.
You know,
But back to your comment,
Yeah,
excuse me, Commissioner.
yeah.
I would agree with you on the ag sector. I think that if we're going to maintain an ag base, for example, we have the dairy down in southern part of our county. And what that happened was we were being entertained by a group for a cheese factory. Well, that never materialized right now. But we have also got this whatever process they take most of the water out of the milk. Those are the kind of industry I think that we should be looking at, and maybe we could stress the fact from the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance or from the Chamber or any other organizations that we're into ag-related areas. So I don't have a problem with that, Commissioner, at all.
No, I think when you go to these economic development groups, like I've been the liaison to Sioux Metro Growth Alliance the whole time I've been on here now and go to most of their meetings. They have all these people at their meetings. Paul can attest to that. They've got the HEDC, Bryce Healy, who is part of the Harrisburg Economic Development, is also part of SMGA. And I think when you start to peel the onion back, Commissioner, actually what you see is that all these groups, the money is sloshing around between all of these groups, because what happens is SMGA gets money. SMGA was originally called Lakita Makita, Minnehaha and Lincoln County Economic Development Association, and they were started by this commission the Minnehaha County Commission, and then a few other stakeholder groups. And in the last few years, SMGA, they rebranded into a new name, and they have all kinds of new partners, and all their subscribers now are all the cities and all the chambers and everything. And so there's they kind of serve as that umbrella group now for economic development at the county and city level. And their niche has become everything but Sioux Falls, because Sioux Falls Chamber and Forward Sioux Falls takes care of downtown, Sioux Falls Chamber takes care of the greater Sioux Falls area. And, I could see this county commission paying a subscription or being a member of each community's chamber. Okay, I get that part. We just have to decide, though, how we want to spend that property taxpayer money in terms of which economic development groups it's going to go to. But I stand by this issue of we got to look at this discretionary money that we hand out. I kind of liken it to DOGE and what's going on at the federal level. Everybody says they want to cut spending, and then when they come for their sacred cow, then they raise a fit. And they don't want their sacred cow, and you see it at the state level here. The DOGE at the federal level cut a bunch of state funding, and then the people at the state funding were throwing a fit because, well, it's okay to cut funding, but not my funding. Well, we just, as elected officials, you got to make tough decisions. Some people just love to spend money. Other people want to save money. We got to figure out what we want to do with the property taxpayer money, whether we're going to drive it into other essential requirements, or if we're going to spend it on all this discretionary spending that we really are not required to. And I just think property taxpayers are looking for something more right now.
I also agree with taking those down to zero. I know that Commissioner Schmidt does not like that, but I totally agree with Commissioner Aaron's on those particular groups. It's like, I think we can do better, and I have thought that for a long time. Again, thank you for that, and I do agree with Commissioner Schmidt about the library stuff, though, because, that's, to give them all the same, if the libraries aren't being used, it's kind of like, I don't like that either, so. Thank you for your work, your committee work on that as well.
Any other questions before obviously, we're going to have some discussion on that budget before we're done, but anything else that Paul has? Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll now move to Commissioner Otten. You have the 4-H budget?
Actually, Paul's gonna.
Oh, you're gonna do that, Paul?
Because she's unavailable to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the busy time for 4-H, as you can imagine.
Oh,
So
really?
So Wendy, in addition to her other stuff, wrote this letter, so I'll just read it out quick. And then I think between myself or Commissioner Otten, we should be able to answer any questions the committee or the commission has about it. Otherwise, we can also get you in touch with Wendy, and she can also go into in-depth if you have any further questions as well. So I'll just read this very quickly. You guys, it's in the packet, but I'll just go over it quickly. Hello, Commissioners. Please excuse my absence as I am at a 4-H Family Consumer Science program I am facilitating. I'm requesting an increase in the travel and conference budget for the 4-H department as well as a vehicle. The request for a vehicle is new this year after evaluating the travel over the past year for our department. The vehicle request would be for a Chevy Equinox, estimated about $32,000. Tracy's travel involved traveling to 27 classrooms to schools throughout our county for in-school programming multiple times over the school year for an estimated cost of $3,487 in mileage. I have not taken mileage during my time with the county other than traveling to a national conference in Wisconsin in 2022. My estimated mileage cost for this past year would have been around $3,514 for traveling for programming and meetings. Purchasing a vehicle would help with the mileage cost but not remove it. In addition to traveling for programming and meetings, next year's spring conference in Rapid City and fall in Pierre or another central town conference's estimated budget that includes registration, lodging, and mileage is about $1,690. I've been trying to go to our national conference every other year, with the dates there, and the estimated budget for this conference is about $1,118 for registration, lodging, and mileage. I have also included $1,000 in the travel and conference budget for lodging at the State Fair, which has not been included before. Including this item in the budget more accurately reflects what is needed in our department. Thank you for your consideration. Wendy Sweeter, 4-H Department Head. And I will pull this up as well.
Is there anything more that you would like to hear from about our 4-H budget?
I've actually talked to Wendy several times and encouraged her that she needs to look at a realistic budget because her and Tracy have been doing this on their own dime. Very little, I understand. It's just like everybody across Lincoln County. They love their job and they don't want to add anything extra, but we should not be encouraging our Lincoln County employees using their own vehicles, using their own time, using their own travel. And again, she's head of the 4-H thing, and when they go to the state meeting, the state fair, and she doesn't have any of that she doesn't have any of that on the county. That's just not wrong, that's just not right. And so I've really encouraged her to look at her budget and put it in the way it needs to be provided for and not onto employees.
Question, would this be ag-related?
Well, she's 4-H.
But, it talked about, doing things, this is ag-related to me, so I mean, it's, what
Yes,
they
and
were
we're
talking
actually
about
looking
earlier.
at several things coming up to be able to use the grounds out there when it's not being used by 4-H. But for that, it was like what John was talking about, you need to look at, restrooms and air conditioning to be able to use those. That's a great facility out there if we can turn around and use it to make money rather than having it sit empty as well.
It has, and it's grown.
Oh, it's huge, yeah.
The footprint has grown immensely with the new buildings. I think, John, is that all the buildings? Are they complete now? Don't they have all their facilities for their animals and things?
The majority of their facilities are there except for the restroom. They're putting in a kind of a mobile building right now for a concession stand out there for both the horse arena, for those type events and for Achievement Days. But, the hope would be is if they could build the right building for the restroom building someday, that would be a combination of both of those things too.
Have the 4-H people gotten together with the auditor's office to discuss whether or not, Sherry was given a pretty good defense of her deal, of her request, and she's saying, well, get this 7-passenger vehicle or a van or whatever. I understand it's not set in stone of using it for the whole county. But now what I'm hearing is, well, one person who wants a vehicle says it can be used for the whole county, and now the 4-H is coming here and saying, well, we gotta use this for the 4-H. Like, hard choices need to be made. There's not enough money to go around. We've got a $1.5 million at shortfall for the highway department here coming up. Can these two departments just share a vehicle?
Well, we've also discussed that as well, and anytime that Sherry or Tracy, or Wendy or Tracy have tried to use a vehicle, well, they're out by Lenox, and if there was anything available, it would be here in Canton. And anytime that they've checked on that, there's no vehicle available for them. And there's 2 of them that do the travel, so we're only requesting or she's only requesting one vehicle between the two of them. So, again, it's location, 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 where do you go? And again, this has all been on them, and they've been putting all of their own money in these trips and travel and mileage. So that's just not right on them either, so. Thank you.
Was there anything else, Paul, that you wanted to emphasize, or that Sherry, or that 4-H wanted to emphasize?
Nope, that's the memo, and then, you know, like I said, if you have any other questions or want to get in touch too, we can always, I can always put you in touch with Wendy, and she can go over in detail, and, you know, you guys are more than welcome to go check out the 4-H building and see what they're doing out there, or maybe travel around with them a day, see how much they actually do with their vehicles, but, I mean, that's good for every department. But yeah, that's all, nothing further from Wendy's.
And right now, they have the 4-H building being set up for a fireworks display for people going into Lenox for the 4th of July parade. So we are getting money back on that.
Been there,
Yep.
yeah.
Everybody wants to share a vehicle until they have to.
Any public comment?
To clarify, it's on the fairgrounds,
Yeah.
not the 40.
Sorry, yeah, fairgrounds.
Public comment? Okay, without any further ado on those, we now have opportunity for public comment. So any publics that want to come up, Linda?
Morning. Linda Montgomery from Fairview, South Dakota. Today is January 1, and there are 20 new...
July.
July 1st.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's okay, Linda.
Whoa! I'm really losing it. Sorry about that. 20 new election bills go into effect today. And what I would like to see is a public hearing on those 20 election bills of how it'll affect Lincoln County and Lincoln County voters. And I would like to see it done this summer, either this month or next month, where Sherry and her people can look and talk about those new bills and how they'll affect us. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Any other public comment? If not, commissioner reports.
On this here, do I ask Drew to come up?
You asked Drew. Drew, do you want to come up?
Drew, you
and-
want to come up?
I think Doug has a question. Is there any commissioners that have any information that they wanted to share?
Yeah.
I know, Mr. Aaron's, you were at the
Oh, well,
hearing,
you got
so.
Drew, let Drew do whatever he's gonna do
Oh.
first.
Can we have an executive session on vehicles
No,
out of tow?
no. No.
Say it in public.
Yeah, that'd be a budgetary issue. That'd be a public hearing. That wouldn't fall underneath consulting with
I mean,
legal
talk
counsel or
about it right
contractual
now.
issues. So, no, that wouldn't fall.
When's a good time to talk about vehicles? Right now?
Well,
You can put it on the agenda.
Yeah, you can put it on the agenda for
if you
next
want
week.
to.
Hmm?
If you want, Doug,
Or
you can put
whenever,
it on the
but-
agenda.
Okay, let's do
Okay.
that.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Commissioner Aaron's, did you have some comments, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the privilege of being able to attend and then make a presentation on my own thoughts at the legislature's Summer Study Committee on Property Taxes. Paul was there, appreciate his presence being there. And the legislature, some members of the committee set out a goal of wanting to see 50% property tax reduction on owner-occupied structures, houses and things like that. So pretty ambitious, lofty goal. Whether they'll get the whole legislature and the governor to agree with that at the next session, we'll see. But I'll just say this, with regard to the report of who was there was a lot of people from the government there. There were a lot of lobbyists there. A lot of people had their hand out looking for our property taxpayer money. I would say probably 90% of the people who testified were all happy with the current system and they like it. And then about 10% of the people there, and I was probably about 10% saying we need to see a reduction. But one of the things all the committee members agreed with when it was brought up is that the number one issue they see is this property tax issue. When they knock on doors, the number one issue that they see is the property taxes brought up by a lot of people. So you got a lot of people in the system, the establishment, who want to defend the system, and then you had a lot of the folks from the outside who are testifying against it. So I guess there's going to be some more committee meetings on that. And then there's also, I think, Paul, I don't see it on the calendar here, but there's going to be another prison meeting coming up.
July 8th.
Yeah, July 8th, so.
It'll be on the next agenda.
Yeah, no, thank you, I appreciate that, just so we can deconflict if, more than two commissioners want to attend any of these meetings, that would be helpful, so. That's my report from the property tax meeting there, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Aaron's, for your comments. I attended in the afternoon, and I heard many of the participants talk about your particular testimony. The afternoon dealt with more specific things, breaking down for schools, communities, et cetera. And they do have a challenging task ahead of them because it's a very complicated issue. A couple of items I have, we had a ribbon cutting for the new asphalt and concrete plant by the Everest. They had their official ribbon cutting of their event, and that's quite a facility. In case no one has ever been there or have a tour of it, I'm sure they could have one because that is a huge investment on that Everest foundation and pays a lot of taxes. The other one is that the South Dakota Association of Counties has taken up a study on its own to look at the future of county government. And we have several different committees that are looking into different areas of collaboration and how we do business and budgeting process, et cetera. So the association is really taking a long, hard look at its future. And we'll have some timely reports on that one, so stay tuned. Anyone from Commissioner Otten, anything special, or Commissioner Putnam? Is there anything else that would need to be brought to the fore? We don't have any executive sessions today, so if there are no other official county business, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Otten and a second by Commissioner Aaron's to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.